Hi guys, this is Donna and welcome to the channel. So, if your goal is to speak in English without feeling embarrassed or shy or feeling like out of confident, I believe this tip will help you. Most of us wants to speak in English, and that's totally understandable because right now English is the international language in this world, and because of that, to have a smooth conversation with other people, we all are trying to learn English. But most of the people who are coming from a country where English is the second language, they are facing a very common issue, and because of that, they are not being able to speak in English, and that is feeling embarrassed or feeling shy while talking in English. There are many of us who are very good at English. We understand English, we can write it English, we can read in English, and this is very normal these days because in most of the country in our education system English is involved, and for that reason we know how to read in English, we know how to write in English. But when we are supposed to talk in English with someone else, we end up feeling very shy and very embarrassed, and that's totally understandable. The main reason for this is not practicing enough in speaking English. In most of the countries where English is the second language, we all can relate to a fact that we are practicing reading and writing on a regular basis. We are reading English books, we are writing in English, but we are not speaking it with others. I have seen it in many people from different countries. I have talked about how much practicing English is important, and today we are talking about practicing and speaking in English. And to be able to speak in English fluently, of course, you have to practice speaking in English fluently. But here comes the tricky part. We generally are not very comfortable talking with someone in English or even practicing with someone in English. Even to learn English, we have to practice with someone to speak in English. But because we are not really comfortable talking in English with someone, we don't really end up having that fluency, and we are not really familiar with the problems that we face overall while speaking with others. And that's totally normal. In most of us, this is a human nature. When we are not really good enough at something, we don't really want to show that side of us to others. And there is a record of people making us feel bad because of it. When we are not really good at something, people are constantly embarrassing us or making us feel bad about it or telling us we are not good enough. Because of all these reasons, people don't really want to show that part of their self to others. When we are finally good at something and we have that confidence, we are putting that in front of the world. But unless we are good at something, we don't really want to show that to anyone because of the fear that people may judge you. When we are with ourselves, we know very well that we are the most honest version with ourselves. When we are going and interacting with other people, we have a lot of barriers that we have put up, and that's totally understandable, as I said, because of the fear of judgment. But one thing that works for us when we are with ourselves is that we know who we are, we know how much we know, and we know how much we are capable of. And because there are no filters, we are ready to do anything. So, the whole idea here that I'm trying to say is that when we are talking with someone else, and the thing that is keeping us from talking with someone else is the embarrassment that we feel, is the, like uncomfort that we feel. But when we are with ourselves, we are not feeling that embarrassment, we are not feeling or having that uncomfort zone. So we can use that. To have that fluency in speaking in English, you have to talk with someone. And sometimes we don't feel comfortable, sometimes we don't even have the people to talk with, but you have always yourself. So when you want to speak in English, if you want to practice speaking in English, or if you want to have that fluency, you can start from yourself. Of course, you cannot be speaking with yourself for the rest of your life. That's not really working here because the goal is to speak with someone else. But here, when we are trying to, or when we are starting to talk with ourselves, we are at least getting a starting point that's going to work for us. Now, the question comes, what should I talk about with myself? Like, that's a very good question. But I would say that if you think about it, on a regular basis, every single day, you are talking with yourself about numerous things. I don't know whether I pronounced that right, but you know what I mean. That means we're talking about everything with ourselves, everything that we are feeling, everything that we want to do, everything that happened with us. We are talking with ourselves in our mind. So we really have to pay attention to it. We are doing it without us knowing, subconsciously. But if you pay attention to it, you can realize that actually you're talking with yourself a lot throughout the day. When we feel sad, we are explaining why I'm feeling sad, what happened to us. When we are angry, we are explaining this made me angry. And when we are happy, we are just marveling the idea that, this made me happy, this made me feel good about myself, or this made my day. And when we wake up in the morning, we are planning our day in our head that I have to do this, and that. So there are 1,000 times in a day that you are actually talking with yourself, but you are just not paying attention. So when you are talking with yourself and when these moments are happening, all I want is you to talk about that in English. So there is a whole idea about creating a second brain. So the idea is kind of like this, that you're creating a second brain in the language that you are trying to learn. So when we are generally learning a language and when we are at the beginner stage, when we are trying to talk in that language or even say a single sentence, we generally translate a sentence from our language to that second language. So there is this whole translation thing happening in our head. But when you create a second brain means the second brain is not going to do any translation. That second brain is thinking in that language. So there is no translation happening. So for that thing or to achieve that thing, it's very, very good if you start thinking in that language. At the beginning, it's going to be a little tricky because, of course, you're a beginner. But if you eventually keep practicing and practicing, and if you keep yourself think in that language and talk yourself in that language, you will eventually be able to create that second brain. The thing that I'm talking about today, that you're using yourself to learn a language, is because I understand sometimes it's very hard to practice with someone or put yourself in front of someone. There are many kind of mixed feelings that we go through, and that's the reason I am kind of trying to design the whole language learning where you're using yourself. If you're still confused on how can I learn English, or how can I think in English, or how can I talk to myself with English, then I'm going to give you a very, very regular task that you have to do every single day. And that is, when you wake up in the morning, of course, we all kind of try to plan our day. So when you're planning your day, try to plan it in English. That means try to keep it in your mind that I will wake up 8 o'clock in the morning, then I will have a shower, and then I'm going to have my breakfast, and then I'm going to have to do this and that and that. So this is a very common thing. We all have this in our lives. I cannot say about the feelings or the incidents that happen in your life, or the things that you kind of talk about in your mind, because everyone's mind is so beautiful and different. But this thing is kind of common in all of us. So that's why I'm giving you this tip. Right after you wake up in the morning, you try to think about the whole day and try to say it loud and clear, because saying things loud actually is very good. It's very good, and it's something that you're also hearing. So I believe that it somehow really works, but I don't know the scientific reason. I'll come back to you after a very good scientific research, but I think that it's really, really helpful if you're saying it loud and clear. You're hearing it, you're saying it, it really works. Now, let me tell you one thing. It might be very, very difficult at the beginning, and it's normal. It takes a good amount of time to be able to learn a language completely, and on top of that be fluent at speaking in that language. It's very normal to have time, to take time. So if you're forgetting stuff, if you're forgetting some phrases, if you have to translate, the sentences, it's totally fine. Practice make you perfect, and it's not just a sentence. It's not something that I'm just saying. It might seem very, very boring, but let me tell you, it's the truth and it's the fact. Other thing is, I hope you all know patience is the key. Show the dedication. I believe you will be successful. And let me tell you, the process of learning anything should not be very hard or not enjoyable. it can be enjoyable, it can be easy. You just have to design it in your way. You have to just make it happen. You just have to make the process very easy and simple for you, so that you are actually showing the dedication and you are actually having fun learning. Life is too short to have hard time learning anything. Learning is fun, but I believe it should be very easy. That was it for today. Thank you for so much love. I'm seeing that my channel is growing and I appreciate every single one of you. And I hope to see you soon. Stay well and stay healthy. Thank you.